Welcome to Wide Flank.
Hello, and welcome to Wide Flank. Today we're playing Animal Well. This is a now playing episode. It's a month-ish old game from solo developer Billy Basso. First game published by Big Mode. I'm joined by Nolan, aka CalamityNolan. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's going on?
And I'm also joined by Gabe. How we doing?
Sup a lot. How we
What's
doing?
up? I'm reading this is the Steam description of the game. It says, explore a dense, interconnected labyrinth and unravel its many secrets. Collect items to manipulate your environment in surprising and meaningful ways. Encounter beautiful and unsettling creatures as you attempt to survive what lurks in the dark. There's more than what you see. So, here we are.
It delivers on that promise. My God, does it?
I agree. Nolan, what were you at when coming into this game? Like, what did you know about the game, and how did you decide to start playing the game, and how did it make its way to you?
I knew nothing. It just kind of popped up in my periphery. I listened to a lot of video game podcasts and read video game news, and it was just like, all of a sudden, here's this game, and they were like, it's got secrets. I was like, great, I'm in.
All I need to know.
What about you, Gabe?
I think embarrassing. I'm still using Twitter, and I'm still calling it Twitter. And I saw screenshots of the artwork and sort of this, glowing pixel world, and it looked very attractive. And everyone was just saying game of the year, game of the year, game of the year.
Yeah.
So I was like, we'll see about that.
Yeah, I embarrassingly also use Twitter, and I was seeing a lot of the same stuff. I mean, originally the pixel art platformer kind of thing kind of turned me off, to be honest. I was kind of
Right.
like, I played a little Hollow Knight, and like everyone says it's a Metroidvania, and I'm like, whatever. And then like I just kept seeing like, it's so good, it's so deep, like there's so much, and I was just like, fucking let's try this game.
Let's give this a shot. No, I think that's what brought me in, because I was thinking, okay, this is just another pixel platformer game. Come on,
Yeah.
I've done this.
Yes.
How could it be any different?
Right.
And we're about to find out in this conversation if it is actually different
Yeah,
and worthy of all of the fucking hype that the internet has been spilling all over it. Maybe it is.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we were maybe also going to talk about just how the game came to life. I mean, Gabe, you kind of mentioned that when we were all chatting beforehand about just like the solo dev and this guy Dan that I don't know about, and Donkey. Yeah, talk to me.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that was the other thing that kind of caught my attention was, again, hey, here's this game that everyone seems to be talking about. And the entire thing was made by one person, which just off the bat is insane. For any game of that scale, to think about making not only just writing the code, but writing a custom game engine from scratch, making all the artwork, making all the music. I mean, that's just an absurd idea. And then looking at who was publishing it, and like you said at the intro, Big Mode Games, which didn't exist. This is the first game they're releasing, and it's a publishing studio. It's a publishing company made by Video Game Donkey himself, Jason Gastro, with 7.5 million YouTube subscribers. The idea that a YouTuber is making a publishing company for games is brilliant. Like, absolutely that should happen. And I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner. Obviously, there's, some conflict of interest if you're going to be watching him talking about this game. Maybe he's biased, but I kind of like that idea. I like that he's invested, right? If he's going to make a video about this game and he's also going to publish it, and he's kind of putting his reputation on the line, I think that like that's cool. It's his channel. He's built this massive audience. They already trust him. And for him to say, I'm putting my weight behind this is amazing. But the missing link between those is this guy, Dan Edelman, who was working for Xbox when Xbox originally launched, and he was part of XBLA, Xbox Live Arcade, and also was involved in like WiiWare, DSiWare, the 3DS eShop, and launched like World of Goo, Bit Trip series, Cave Story, Shovel Knight. So here's a guy who had worked on massive consoles and was used to the business of releasing indie games. And I think that is a massive link, right? Like, you need the developer, but you also need someone who understands the industry and how to publish it and how to release a game. And then you need a big enough microphone, or a megaphone, I guess in this case, Video Game Donkey. And with those three things, you can have a perfect storm and do what they did with Animal Well.
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense because a lot of what you want from a publisher, right, is number one, money, and he's very successful, so he can do that. And number two, right, you want help getting it out there. Discoverability for indie developers is so hard, and with that massive following, then he's exactly positioned to get people to check out a game. So I think it would, we're going to see a lot more people doing this. And with regards to bias, I don't think there's any problem with that. He's not a journalist. He's not a reviewer. He's an entertainer. And so who cares if he...
Yeah, he's transparent about it.
If he says glowing things about the games that he publishes, I would hope he would. That would make him a good publisher.
Right. I care and believe in this game. He's a curator, like a label. I'm putting my reputation behind this.
Yeah,
right?
It's basically like if there was a music YouTuber. Does that thing even exist? I don't even know if that's a thing. But if they started, I'm sure, right? There has to be. But like, if they started a record label, right, and they just started like, it's like new album, and it's like, whoa, like I can't believe blah blah blah, publish an album. That's crazy. My favorite YouTuber. But like, it makes sense. Also, it makes perfect sense. He has like hundreds and hundreds of hours of like talking about games. It's like you align with him, you think he's funny, you think he's cool, you like the same stuff. It's like I want to play his games.
And I think also in this case, he was giving some feedback to Billy as the game was kind of getting finished. Like there was a little bit of back and forth there. And for somebody who kind of has such a voice of, of like, these are my opinions. And for that relationship to be healthy, I think can move the project forward in a really good way, right? Like I can only imagine if you are a solo developer and you are making everything, the kind of like internal feedback loops that you could get into when making something, right? Like you're just so in your head.
There's something wrong, I feel like, sort of, if you're like, I'm just gonna make this game entirely by myself. And like I feel like you're missing like you need to learn how to delegate or something like that, or you have like trust issues or something.
What trauma as a child did you go through to lead you to be a solo game developer?
Yeah,
and
like
put yourself through that.
Just having the thought process like, wow, this is like, like I'm getting somewhere with this game. Like this is kind of cool. I need like music, and then just being like, I'm the guy. Like I'll do that too. And then like, I need
what
some
about
art. Like,
me?
I'll do that.
It's super interesting because we are now moving into a like, quote unquote solo game developer year. There were 4 or 5 projects in the recent Summer Games Fest. The so-called Key 3. Jeff Keighley's replacement for E3, that were solo devs. Wow. And I put that in quotes because there is no game that gets released that is just one person working on it all the way through. There might be like a primary dev. But it is interesting to see, especially with like, that is an expensive show to have a spot in, right? Like $250,000 to $500,000 for whatever, 30 seconds to whatever, 2 minutes, something featured. Like that. Yeah. And so I can't imagine how that all happened.
Right. How do you cut through and make that happen?
Yeah. The state of the industry is obviously very complicated right now. And there've been a lot of layoffs and there have been a lot of studio closures. And so there probably just weren't a lot of AAA games that had things to show. And so they were reaching out to solo devs. But, we're in sort of this AAA indie phase where these small teams are getting lifted up, which is interesting to see.
I mean, there's that meme kind of that gets shared around, this quote that is, I want shorter games with worse graphics made by people who are paid more to work less.
And I'm not joking.
And I'm not joking. Right. And like, I think
good.
that it's just turned into that in a way, right? Like all these massive game studios that were bought by Microsoft this year getting shut down, AAA studios consolidating. Now you have really, really tiny teams. I mean, look at the local thunk Balatro, right? Like that was massive. meteoric rise for, again, another solo dev this year. So
even things like Pal World, right? Very small team
true.
to start with, and then got huge.
Right. I guess, is that better for game design? I don't know. I feel like what's happening is a stratification, right? It's that like you're seeing really tiny studios, maybe one developer make stuff that then like blows up. But then you're also seeing just like the mega top game studios, right? Like GTA 6, like Rockstar Games, and like, stuff like that costs like $1 billion to make. An
actual billion.
Yeah, literally $1 billion. So like, I think what we're losing is like the kind of
$6 billion.
Okay.
Are you serious?
Oh, holy shit. You're losing the middle class, right? It's like where is like the mid-sized indie studio, right? Like that, I think is harder and harder to sustain for some reason.
It's donkey. Right?
Well,
like not really. It might be donkey, right? Like it might be people
donkey?
No. Sorry, I mean he could fulfill that role of like a mid-sized game studio or like publisher that pays enough to sustain like a team as opposed to a solo dev or something like that, right? Like someone who has the money and resources and natural like he doesn't need to pay for marketing. He just puts out a YouTube video, right? Like
yeah. Like that could be the future. That could be like the next generation of like doing business in the games world. I don't know. I mean, it's all kind of happening before our eyes.
Certainly where we've been moving, because I'm someone who kind of thinks that an indie publisher is an oxymoron, right? If you have a publisher, then you're not independent. But that's what we've been seeing this last couple of years, right? Is there's publishers who are focusing on these, triple I experiences, right? That are moving into this medium studio space where, it's a lot of like, look at this very pretty pixel art game.
Hello.
Right. That has a tried and true nostalgic genre to it. And has like some element of mass appeal. And so we see a lot of those getting pushed up. And then, right, that's our new. So now we need a new word for indie, I guess. Maybe, solo dev is sort of the new thought around that.
The new trend.
Yeah. So we'll see. And again, right, the problem here is that we see the solo devs that blow up. That get really big, but for every solo dev that has a hit, there's 100 that have spent 7 years making something that just never gets discovered.
No one plays or never gets finished. Even honestly, like that probably happens too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That just
even more that don't get finished.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like they run out of money, they run out of time. There's infinity reasons to not finish a game that takes 7 years to make. But let's talk about the good stuff. Let's talk about what Animal Well, what it looks like, what it sounds like, which for me were the first things that sort of like captured me when I just like booted up the game. I was like, shit. It's just like so beautiful. It feels so nice to be there. And you just see all the way the light plays off everything and reflections in the water and like these flora, fauna. There's like a wind almost, around, just like, and it just looks incredible.
Yeah, it is instantly beautiful. I agree.
I actually had kind of an opposite reaction when I first booted it up, because I was like, the main character, you're this little blob rock thing that's like barely expressive, totally unappealing. It's just like this little thing. I was like, okay, well, whatever. It's mostly one guy doing everything. It's fine. We'll see how it goes. It's, a little rough to jump around, I feel like. But then as it starts to open up, you realize the amount of work and the just the craft of the pixel art that's going on. Like the first time you throw a firecracker and you notice the smoke and the pixel effect spread out. The first time you see an animal in the animal well. And, it's like, these are really special moments that are afforded by having kind of a simple start.
True. Yeah, I mean, for me, the blob thing was really reminding me of the like level 1 Tamagotchi blob that you have.
Yeah.
Like it's
100%.
just so nothing. It's literally a circle with like a little like head, like fluff. So, you're projecting all of this emotion onto that blob, obviously. And I think that's, I don't know, maybe that's a good thing, is that like you don't really have a character. You're basically a moving circle kind of, and I think that was a little bit confusing in a way, was like, what am I doing down here? I hatched out of a flower. Like, what is my presence in this space? What is this space? That's one of the first kind of like levels of intrigue that I think sucks you in, and sort of asks you to keep peeling away at like this multi-layered onion cake,
like a flower blossoming.
Right.
How you
Petals
start the game.
True.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I'll go with you there.
I don't know what your guys' process was like while playing and taking notes, but I was constantly like tabbing out to like write something down, and it's just funny reading. Like, I read it back before we started. Like, I have so many, like, at the very beginning of the game, I'm like, not sure what this cranking thing does. Seems like I need to avoid this. And then my next thing is cranking platforms is cool. It's just like everything was just like, what is this? What is this? I don't know what this does. This does. And then I'm just like, look at me go. Like I'm fucking cruising around the map and everything's cool and new.
Yeah, it really like instantly you understand you're being rewarded for exploring, basically. Like that, I think it was one of the things that definitely gets you addicted quickly, is that your curiosity will be rewarded. Just keep jumping around, keep touching stuff, keep going to the next screen. I think that was part of the hook as well, was, hey, I'm looking at this screen and it looks amazing. First of all, just to talk about like the visual fidelity, this is a pixel art game for sure, but the reason why I think it looks so different is because it has all of these sort of modern graphical techniques happening on screen at the same time. So like the overall resolution, internal rendering resolution, is 320 pixels wide by 180 pixels tall, which is absurd. I mean, like the Sega Genesis was 320 pixels wide and 224 pixels tall. The Sega Genesis had a higher internal resolution than Animal Well, which is insane. But this game clearly it doesn't look like it was made 35 years ago. This game looks kind of like it was made today for some reasons that I think have to do with the lighting, like we were talking about, right? Like how things just glow and how lighting reacts with the scene. Yeah. A lot of the design of the graphical assets, not only was Billy drawing, the scenery and the characters and all of that, but with each asset, he was also drawing a normal map for that asset. So the normal map is a layer that describes the direction that light would reflect off of that object. So he can use that texture as a way of showing how light, if it's coming from one direction, would hit that object as if it were like in 3D. So you get this kind of very natural dynamic highlighting on objects as things like the firecrackers are sparking around you, or as you're carrying a lantern around, or like the swinging lanterns on the vines and stuff. As those move and the lighting in the scene changes, like these are pixel assets, but they're getting rendered and lit in this very sort of like modern way, which is really beautiful. I don't know if that was were you guys noticing that yes. Like the way that this game kind of glows?
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the when you realize that things move and react to not just your character, but things outside of the game as well.
Yes.
It's very interesting, right? So I played it on the Switch.
Same.
And so if you run your finger across, if you drag across the screen, then you'll move the vines and things. If you're playing on PC and you move your physical window around, then not your physical, your digital window.
Definitely not Windows, physical.
Then they'll react to that movement, which is something I've never seen. So it's pretty interesting to see all this, modern dynamicism within the system, in this retro style, and it's got a modern retro CRT filter on it as well, which gives it that sort of like, it's not what a CRT looks like, but it is what now we've
We
agreed
identify.
CRTs looked like.
Yeah, it's
so
like kids
right.
are calling CRT.
Yeah, it's this new symbol that's been placed on it.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think that's really cool about having that such a low rendering resolution is that the
Right.
entire game is only 33 megabytes in file size, which is
Absolutely insane.
some sorcery, some dark magic. It's like I have PNGs that are bigger than
Oh my God,
35
yeah.
or 33
Apparently-
megabytes, you know?
Yeah, the PS5 download is 100 megabytes, and 70 megabytes of that is the wallpaper background that shows when you are on the home screen for the game.
Oh my God, that
The
rocks.
background
Twice as big.
wallpaper is
Yeah.
twice as big as the entire game.
He
which
probably
people have
hated
put-
making that. He's like, this
Oh.
goes against everything I believe in. This is
Absolutely.
too big.
Yeah, I
That's
was
really funny.
Listening to an interview with Local Thunk about Balatro, and he was saying that the multi-language font pack was bigger than the entire
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
That's the limit that we are at with that stuff,
Yeah.
which is so insane.
It's really wild.
Also, I do want to mention another visual effect that's happening that I think is really beautiful is the fluid simulations. This way that smoke and the way that liquids kind of swirl around on screen, that's also really, really satisfying. And he's using a particular method of Navier-Stokes fluid equations, and using that in 2D is just really satisfying and something you would not have seen in a Genesis game from 35 years ago.
And then
you know?
the way that the lighting system is interacting with that. So you
Yes.
get all these shadows on the smoke, which is
Yes.
just incredible.
Yeah, I don't have the vocabulary you guys have, but that's kind of what I meant by almost there's a wind or something, right? There's so much movement in the background and all of the environmental things, and obviously the animals, and you're constantly jumping around and everything's constantly swinging around, and the smoke is dissipating while you're getting chased by a blinking monster, and it's just it's just so alive with
Yeah.
I don't know. He just did a masterful job. I did want to just be also a little bit, not to bring the mood down or anything, but I was just thinking about it because we were talking earlier about, for every successful solo dev, there's hundreds of failed. It's it's so sick when it works. And they trusted
Right.
this dude, and his vision was incredible, and the execution was even better than the vision, and the game is so cool and good. But it's risky because it's again, it's 7 years poured into this, and it might have just not been good, right? 99% of the time, it's just that kind of looks shitty, and the game just doesn't go anywhere. It's just man, it's needle in a haystack shit with this.
Yeah, I can't imagine just sort of working on something sort of in a very tight bubble, with no external feedback. I think that this whole thing started as a hobby side project, and it was probably just for fun. Same with Local Funk. He was like, I'm making this for myself, right? That's maybe part of the reason why they can just keep it going. That they weren't necessarily thinking this is going to be my lottery ticket for salvation, and I'm gonna be able to quit my job, right? I don't think that they were putting all their chips on these projects, and it just so happened that they did actually become major international bestsellers.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then also the music and the sound we haven't even touched on. I mean, Nolan, what do you think of the sound design and the music and stuff like that?
It was very ambient, so I don't know. I like more of an active soundtrack, but I think it worked well with the, very haunting visuals. Right, you're in this space. There's not a whole lot of, there's not anything that's driving you in any one direction. It's just you are sort of experiencing this. You sometimes hear things like shrieking in the distance, and you're like, well, maybe I should try and figure out what's going on with that. But it's I think it fits well for its when you're playing it, for the mystery, but it's not something that I'm gonna listen to outside of the game.
Yeah, that's fair. Gabe, what do you think?
I think for me, I was disappointed, I would say.
Oh wow, okay.
I when I was first playing, probably because, I'm looking for that anthem, I want to sing the like Animal Well song, like jam it out of my car. So I felt like I wasn't getting that, and as I started playing this game, just the way the level design and the puzzle design was working, it was bringing me back to Tunic quite a bit, which obviously has some similar concepts of layers and everything. We can get into that. But for me, I personally loved the Tunic soundtrack, and I do listen to that soundtrack. Yeah. And I think there are some bangers on there. And I was actually listening to that soundtrack before I even played the game. So then when I played the game, I was just like having the best time because I knew that song. I was like, here's that part,
Yeah.
Whereas in this game, it just kind of doesn't happen. And I was like thinking more about it, and I was reading a little bit, and I think if you think about this game more as a survival horror game, then the soundtrack starts to make more sense because, like you said, Nolan, you're hearing these shrieks. It is this kind of ambient creepiness, right? I mean, you're stuck in a labyrinth of sewers with lots of ghosts and other animals that seem somewhat like antagonistic towards you. Like you're stuck down there and it's sort of creepy. And if you think about the sound design from that perspective, it actually does make a lot of sense. And I started to get more into it. I know that there's sort of like a theme that plays when you're on one of the save screens, and that sort of has this like chordal movement, ambient sort of keyboard thing happening that is reminiscent of Twin Peaks a little.
That's exactly what I have in my notes. Especially
right?
like the sample by Moby, like that just on repeat, like those two chords back to back. I was just like, holy shit, I could sit here forever. And it was funny, I saw on Big Mode's YouTube, they just post like an hour of ambience of like resting in the save screen.
Dude,
like
I just listened to
for like studying and working. I was like, that's perfect. I love this. Yeah, I thought the music was maybe not that memorable like you guys were saying, but I just found that like more of the sound design than the music just like fit the game so well. Like when there's like a scary moment, which there are a lot of scary moments, it's fucking terrifying. Like my heart is just like instantly like 200 beats per minute. I'm just like, oh my God, what the hell is that? And it's
absolutely
something's chasing you. It's crazy. And like, and then there's, side by side, the contrast of like an ambient, I'm like floating down a bubble next to a waterfall. I'm just like, this is fucking chill, like I love this. Doing some platforming. Look at me platforming. But
there was this one room I remember dropping into, and it's totally pitch black, and you're clearly on some like ledge, and you're trying to walk across, and then all you see are these tiny little glowing eyes and this like little like giggle that happens from this mouse, I guess. And then the mouse kind of runs across and it like shrieks, and then its head flies off and like zooms over at you. I hated that. That freaked me out every time. It was so intense. Yeah.
Listening to an interview with Billy, I actually didn't have a chance to finish it, but he mentioned the horror games that he loved playing, like those sort of old like PS1 era games. Right. But he also said that like the scariest things that he remembers from being a kid were like being chased. He's like, it wasn't like B horror movie, like some gory zombie. He's like, that's not scary. He's like, what's scary is like when the sun in Mario just follows you and you just have to keep running because the sun never goes away. He's like, that's scary. He's like, I remember that. And I'm like, I actually totally agree. It's not like the look of a thing that really scares me. It's more just like, oh shit, I have to run. Like, that feeling.
Absolutely. He definitely dials that in this game. I mean, there is a big chase moment that happens.
So good.
I mean, we're going to get into
a couple.
This. Also,
a lot of spoilers. Yeah.
If you're listening to this, we are fully spoiling the game. And if you want any semblance of surprise and things being like popping out and you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming, probably not a good time to listen.
Let me interject by just saying, I don't think we've spoiled much so far. And this game, at least the regular ending or first ending or whatever you want to call it, is very short, very digestible. I beat it in like 5 sessions of playing the game. Absolutely loved it. So like if there's any chance of you playing the game, like just play the game. Like it's not a big ask or anything like that. And now we'll start spoiling.
The moment that I was referring to, obviously, was the moment that you steal the mock disc from the altar of the ghost dog, and then suddenly you're being chased by this terrifying, like glowing,
So sick.
like
He was cute. What are you
dog.
talking about?
I don't know, man. That like
I was trying to pet him,
unrelenting.
and then he
Heart
he
started
bit me
going
a couple
away?
times. Yeah, but I do like that it was, a lot of the design of the animals is ambiguous. It's not like these are scary monsters, but if you do get too close to them, then they will hurt you.
That's definitely one of the things that I think leads to the anxiety of the game, right?
Yes.
Is because you're bumping into these animals
Exactly.
and you're wondering, is this one gonna fucking kill me?
Yeah.
Or can I hang out with this one?
Or
And
does this
maybe
one
we can
even
collab.
notice me?
Right.
That's also like sometimes there's a lot of animals in the background, like there'll be a rabbit that you can't reach, and it's just over there, and you're just like cute, whatever.
Oh, you can reach it.
Well, you can, but at first you can't.
Yes.
But then there's also like these like storks in the water, and when you first encounter them, I'm like, oh, they're gonna like fight me or something, and you just kind of cruise by. They just occasionally, dip their beak in the water, but they're not attacking you. They don't even notice that you're there. Whereas like you said, ghost dog, which by the way I fully treat as a cat in my brain. I thought it was a cat all the way.
I also thought it was a cat.
Until everyone started calling it ghost dog, and I'm like, what? That's a cat.
Interesting.
I
Okay.
thought it was a cat for sure.
It's the cat from Houseu, right?
It's literally the cat from Houseu. I
It
fully
does have
agree
the
with you,
mouth.
Alon.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
like whatever. That's a different topic. But
it
it's
definitely
just,
read as dog to me.
Oh, really?
Especially,
Okay.
Yeah, especially with like, well, there's a bunch of like dogs around that
Yes,
area,
yeah.
and dog statues, and you get a frisbee, which is very dog coded.
yeah,
So it was like, yeah, dog ghost.
dog
You-
ghost.
Make a lot of really good points.
Yeah, really, really strong point. And somehow Gabe and I just ignored all the dogs, and we're like, look at that big cat.
I loved the
Cat
Frisbee
king of
item.
dog world.
Yeah, exactly.
The Frisbee item was amazing, by the way. I mean, just if we want to talk a little bit about the items.
Yes, I would love to.
The items that you're collecting along the way are really cool because they are sort of keys to unlock the puzzles, right? Once you get an item, now you can sort of access new parts of the screens that you maybe had already seen. And I liked the Frisbee a lot because not only were you able to throw it to sort of destroy certain terrain, if you ran into any aggressive dogs, real dogs, that would, if you try to run by them, literally grab you and like wrestle you to the ground, which is really intense when that happens. You can just throw the Frisbee at them and then they bite on the Frisbee and then you can walk by them. Or you could even have the Frisbee bouncing back and forth between two platforms and then the dogs are like running, trying to jump up and grab it, which is really cool. I love
So
how
great.
interactive that is, right? It makes the animals feel much more alive because they're reacting to the object that you have. And I think that level
And that's
of
just
surprise...
the first order of the item.
Right. Because
Yeah.
as you keep going, you start to realize, wait, this item can do more than me just throw it out and distract dogs and maybe destroy terrain. I can also now ride on it, and I can surf that Frisbee around. It's like it's a little hoverboard sort of, and I didn't go all the way to the bottom of the depths of all the secrets in this game. There may be even more that I never even learned.
There's another high level technique that you can do with
Yes.
it that really that was a point
it's
in the
actually
game where
very
I was
hard.
like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah,
And
it's
I,
actually
had to
difficult.
go to bed being like, well, I am a failure. And then the next day finally got it.
We're
But it's just
getting old. Like you can
Spoil it. I want to know.
Sure,
I wanna
okay.
I mean,
so
you can
you-
Frisbee jump basically.
Right, yeah. So you
Oh my God.
if you throw the Frisbee right before the peak of your jump, then you can land on it. So you can jump and throw and then go, and then you have to chain those together in a room to get a bunny.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It's
You can. I also saw a little video of a guy. The main vertical cavern or whatever that you fall through. You
Mhm.
you can bounce the Frisbee like you would with the bubble wand. You can bounce the Frisbee off the wall and keep landing jumps and chain it and go all the way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The game is pretty comfortable to control. I felt like I had good control over my blob, but that is another level. That's crazy.
I mean, I don't know. I had some trouble with the platforming moving on to another item, if that's okay. The bubble wand was like, I don't know. I had some trouble trying to get like, okay, I need this to like float up in this area and then jump on it. And then like, I need to get the like timing just right. So the bubble floats up and then, I'm at the like height of my jump to move on to the next area. But
yeah. I agree with you. I would just fire out a wall of bubbles and then hope that I had one to jump on.
Oh
sort
my
of.
God.
Well, yeah. Once you get the BB wand. But
Yes.
With
BB
the regular
wand,
wand,
that's what it's all
I
about.
was
not doing great.
flying
Right.
around the map.
Wow.
I basically like barely touched the ground from that point on. I was just like boom, just mashing them together like it was a fighting game combo or something, just jumping bubble to bubble to bubble. Like
Bubble Boy,
I basically
dude.
like
Love it.
they mentioned this on the Eggplant Pod, but like it feels like you're breaking the game, but obviously you're not.
Oh yeah.
But like
Yeah.
in such a fun way. Like I just love that you're not so like the items we mentioned in the intro, like it's a Metroidvania. I think it's kind of more games than a Metroidvania, but it's very
we'll
like
circle back to that.
We'll circle back to that, but like it's very typical Metroidvania, right? To like get items and then that lets you access the next area, and that's kind of how you progress. But like the items feel so much more alive and fun and unique in this game, right? I'm not getting like a hook shot and dash and a double jump. It's like, oh my God, if you feel like, oh my God, I figured this out, this bubble jump thing, even though like you're probably supposed to, and like probably a lot of people do figure that out. And it lets you go to areas that like you didn't think you could get to, but you actually can if you just do it later or use a different item or go a different way. And it just feels so open.
I mean, yeah, it's a good thing they're fun because they're literally toys.
Yes.
Right? It's a weird
They're
thing
all
where you're
toys.
like, you're getting, the yo-yo and the frisbee and whatever. There's a top and a bouncy ball, slinky. Yeah, they're like these
Bubble
very
wand.
human toys that you get as a blob exploring this like animal kingdom. And it's, I think that is part of the design elements, right? They're like, you're supposed to play around with them and discover that like, oh, actually these can be used in multiple different ways. These unlock more ways to traverse than you initially thought. And it, it's something that just like encourages you to play around.
Yeah.
Right. It is so representative of the design philosophy of this game that like there's density, right? That like the thing that you're looking at at face value is not all that it offers. And that is true of every screen that you're on, of every item that you find, that it is begging you to like dig deeper and sort of continue to pull on the threads. And as you're pulling on the threads, I personally was saying to myself, I'm a genius. I am so good at this game. I am a master, and I think that's the magic trick of the design of what he did, is that you're solving what seemed to be very complex puzzles and what seemed to be like, wow, I just figured out a little secret for myself, right? But he totally planted that for you. And it's so subtle. And I loved just like continuing to surprise myself with how awesome I was at playing this game.
And playing on your expectations too, right? You see a high ledge in a Metroidvania and you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll come back when I have the double jump. Nope, not going to happen. You're only going to get, a tool that you have to do technical precision platforming with every single time you want to get to a higher area.
Right.
It's
totally.
You don't get any shortcuts in this game, really.
I mean, I totally, there's like the walls. There's like little walls all over the place for those who haven't played, where it's just
glass walls.
The glass walls. Like I was 1,000,000% sure that like I'm going to get a thing to break the wall. Like my next item's going to be a glass
flame wand
breaker, whatever, like whatever you want to call it. it never happens. Like it
Right.
never happens. You just get a toy and you just go
Give me
around
the
them.
baseball that shatters the window.
Literally, yeah. And it just
that's
again,
good.
he's just playing with your expectations all the time and like dangling little secrets to you, like of just like, oh, I wonder how eventually I'll get there, planting that seed in your head, and then 2 hours later, you're like, for me at least, I didn't even like remember the area that I'm going to. I just ended up in the same room, and I'm like, oh shit, I can go to that spot. Or I'm looking at the map, and I'm like, wait, that was that spot. Like I can go there now, and that yeah.
Yeah, it's so satisfying. We were saying that the genre of this game is Metroidvania, and I was seeing some discourse that it's could be considered a new genre of Metroidbrainia, or what some people call an iceberg game, where you only see the tip, the tip of the iceberg, and then the deeper you go, the deeper it goes, right? That kind of idea that it's sort of this very deep rabbit hole that you're diving through. I think that it does feel different to me than, Super Metroid or, Symphony of the Night. Because there's no combat and because there's so much more just free exploration, and that it's about the items unlocking the world. I don't know. It does kind of feel like it was somehow refined in a way, more potent, and because of that, it can maybe stand on its own.
Right.
I agree it's refined, but it absolutely is a Metroidvania. And I think like when you look at Symphony of the Night, right, that is a game with a ton of secrets. And, when it first came out, most people didn't even see half the game. So it's, this is a return to form to that for sure. And I think what's happened is that recently we've seen a formalization of the Metroidvania, genre.
Sure.
And so you see a lot of games that there's a high platform, you're going to get the double jump. And I find those very, I think a lot of people are playing bad Metroidvanias, I guess.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And I found this very interesting in relation to a game that came out earlier this year, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which a lot of people were saying like this is the pinnacle of the Metroidvania genre.
Wow. Okay.
And that was a game that I found completely unexciting. It felt very paint by numbers to me. I could guess what every single unlock was going to be, except for one, but it turned out to be less exciting than what I imagined it was. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know. It's like a very technically well-made game.
Of course.
But it just kind of felt soulless. It didn't have like that spark for me that I love from Metroidvania. For me, Animal Well gives me that. That's the when I get a new item, it fundamentally changes the way that I relate to the world. It's not something that I could have predicted, and it's something that I have to figure out by playing through the game. It's not just like a key and a lock. It's a new way to move through the space. And this is like so good at doing that. And I think that it relates back to Super Metroid and Symphony of the Night, right? Where you're getting things that the bomb jump is very similar to the bubble wand.
Yeah.
In Symphony of the Night, you can't predict that you're going to turn into a wolf and mist and bats and all this wild stuff. Yeah. You're like, oh, wow, that's how I do this? So that's bringing back some of this original flavor that was in Metroidvanias and modernizing it for a current audience.
Yeah, I'm sold. I'm sold on that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm with
you sold me. It's almost Metroidvania 2.0, right? It's the contemporary Metroidvania, what it should be. It's
right.
Because Castle, Symphony of the Night, those games, original Metroid, it's not really open to go wherever you feel like going, even though that's kind of the original promise. I feel like is you're in a castle and it's totally open to where you go. You want to go, but you have to discover other parts of it. But that's not really the case. You need to sort of follow a general linear path, not completely, but this game is just you obviously also need to sort of follow a path to get to the conclusion, but it feels much more open because it's just less like hard gated. Like one area is one item, next area is another item. And I mean, he mentioned this in the interview, but it's like he sort of just made like a tree of dependency. And he's sort of like, you can get to one act of one area with no items just to check it out, see the vibe, get used to the art, see the animals, see like what kind of stuff might be there. Then act 2 is like you've gotten the item for the area and now you unlock a whole bunch of other stuff there. And then act 3 is you need a different item from a different area to reach the full part. So you're always traversing the whole map. Like you always, yes, the flower that Nolan keeps doing with his hands, but it's just like you're constantly like, that's one part that felt so unique to me is like,
Yeah.
I'm not that I'm like bored, but like, I want to go do something else. Like a kid playing with toys, right? Like I just kind of want to like go somewhere else. This part's annoying me. I can't figure this out. You can just go. Like you just go have fun over there, check out totally new puzzles that have a totally different shape and feel and color and look and like sounds. And that just felt like incredible. Those moments felt like I wasn't in a Metroidvania to me, even though I probably was.
I mean, famously, Alon, we all remember how frustrated you were playing Symphony of the Night. I feel like there was a lot of
famously
a lot of angst. Yeah, we all remember
famous
that.
Podcast.
Yeah, I think a lot about how like there is so much embedded in the, it's just woven together, right? Like all of these threads are very tightly woven and you can kind of navigate them in a different way. I was curious for you guys, do you remember what order you got your items in? Like which one you got first, second, third, and fourth for the flames?
Bubble wand first.
Wow.
Oh my god, that was last for me.
Same.
I don't know how you like explore the rest of the game without it.
It was hard.
Don't remember.
I imagine, because that unlocks a lot of. That's like your main traversal item.
Yeah. Totally.
I think I did. I think I did bubble wand first, and then frisbee.
Right.
And then slinky.
Yeah.
And then whatever the other one is.
The last one is the
Yo-yo.
Yo-yo. Yes. I think that was the order.
Yeah, I think I did frisbee, slinky, yo-yo, bubble wand.
Yeah, I don't remember. I mean, definitely frisbee first. I remember for sure. I mean, I could just look in my notes right now, but I don't feel like doing it.
I guess that just speaks to the level of like openness and non-linearity, right? That this game, it's not saying, hey, you should have gotten one of these before the other. And I mean, right, Nolan, I probably agree with you. Had I gotten the bubble wand earlier, I would have sped through the game a lot faster.
Yeah.
I was definitely scratching my head and really impressed with myself that I was solving things with what felt like I didn't have enough. But I did, and I could get through and it was really cool. I think out of those 4 core items that you find in the first part of the game, the slinky felt like, I don't know, I just loved the way that one moved around the level and how it, those screens where the slinky was important were so they would reflect the movement of the slinky. So you started to see, I can see how the slinky's going to walk down this staircase and then it's going to bounce off of this thing and walk left and walk right. It was so fun to see the slinky sort of domino itself through the terrain. Mm-hmm. That was awesome. And I don't think I've ever seen an item like that in another game before. That's the first time I've seen slinky dynamics.
And it split your brain in such a pleasing way, right? Where you had to be kind of keeping track of 2 different things at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes. It was really cool.
And most of the slinky levels are like, I don't know what to call them, levels, rooms. Like they're like one, it's like one room, or the full puzzles, it's just one room. You know what I mean? So like I would enter a slinky room and just be like, okay, like this is going to lift that square. This is going to lift that square. This is going to lift that. I have to like go there, throw a disc under this, like go here, go here, go here, I think. And then I would try it and then I would reset the room and, and you'd get it. It was really fun to have that like all contained in like one room. But yeah, great items. I was in the Billy Basso interview. He said the bubble climbing, as he called it, like jumping on your own bubble, it was just a natural consequence of a system that he made. He did it by accident. It was not intentional. So he had to like then he was like, I'm not going to remove it. I'm just going to build around it. So then he added like the hummingbirds and the vines and stuff that made you like, you can't literally go everywhere with the bubble wand, but like it's cool and fun. And
I really loved that way of restricting how certain items could be used in different rooms, because it could easily have just been like, this is a no bubble room, and there's like a sign that like your bubble wand like is deactivated or some bullshit like that, right?
You're out of soap juice.
Right. All your soap juice gets stolen from you at the beginning of the room or something.
It's not sunny anymore.
but no, instead he introduces this little hummingbird that is going to swing down and pop all of your bubbles for you. Like it's so animal well to do that, and I loved like how there was certain little caverns and platforms that you knew you could jump up to if you were riding on your frisbee or something, but he puts a bunch of vines in front of that little spot, and then the frisbee hits it, and then the frisbee falls down, and the vines are so animal well. Like that level of integration with the design and how it limits what you can do just felt so cohesive. I really appreciated that.
Totally. And what about the map? I mean, I just like in my notes I have best map ever ? Like
wow. You loved the map?
I loved the map.
I also loved the map.
I just found that like it's what a lot of Metroidvanias I've played is missing for me. Like I could look at the map, I could figure out, okay, this is where I want to go, or like oh, there's a path this way that I haven't figured out yet. Or and like you can put stamps on the map, and eventually you get the pencil, you can write on the map. And so I was like, oh, treasure chests, flame for my matches, like putting everything there. Just it makes it so you don't have those moments of like, oh my God, I was looking for 2 hours to find that area. I can't remember where it is, blah, blah, blah. That happens in games sometimes. And I just found myself like constantly opening it more than I do in any other game, and just finding it really satisfying to be like, oh, there's a big black area that's unexplored here. I'm going to go check that out. Like that sounds fun. That's cool.
Yeah, it is the mystery box, right?
Yeah.
You're looking at this thing and you know where you have to go next. You go to the place that you haven't seen, and you're just, let me peel that layer back. And the map is the thing that gives you direction, which once I felt like I had discovered a lot of the map, I think that was a point where I started to feel I didn't know what to do next, which was a little frustrating for me.
Right.
I think the opposite.
I know you do.
The map was so precise. The subtle feature, the subtle innovation here is that when you enter a room, right, it filled up all of the like first order information you found and was very careful about leaving gaps where things were hidden. And so a lot of times in Metroidvanias, right, like I'll write down a list of like, okay, well, here's this thing in this room, or like take a picture, do something. I didn't really take that many notes in this game. I kept it all on the map and was able to see like, oh, here's where something is. And I know I can go back there, and maybe I'll put a stamp on it. But it was so careful in filling in rooms thoughtfully that I was able to use it very well to just like be like, okay, well, I have a new item. Let me go back here, see if I can do something with that. And even within rooms that I'd already been to and thought that I'd maybe finished, it was like, okay, there's something else hidden in here that I can find.
I'm with you, Nolan. That's how it made me feel too. It also was just, I feel like it let him build as big a game as he wanted. Whereas like without it, it would have felt like I'm lost. I don't remember how to get to that area, and it's going to take me 5. I was there 10 hours ago and I don't remember how to get there again. And I can't remember. Whereas like it's a pretty big map. Like for a Metroidvania, like it goes deep. This well goes deep, and like you're constantly like able to open it and just be like, oh, there's like a little 2-pixel black area right there. And it's like that's the connection, and then you eventually get the lantern, so the dark rooms are also lit up on the map, and it's just like, oh my god, it felt so satisfying. Like I'm accomplishing things.
It is funny how when you get to a certain level of uncovering the map where you see that tiny little hole in the wall and you're looking through, and it's just, oh, that is going to be so sweet when I find that little.
And I know my guy is 1 pixel tall.
Yeah, exactly.
So he can squeeze right in there.
That's the beauty of the blob.
yeah.
That's why the blob is perfect. 1 pixel by 1 pixel.
Yeah, it's like spending the entire game in the morph ball.
Yeah, exactly. But so we've kind of like teased it, but there's a lot more to the game after the game. I think both Gabe and I sort of lost steam at that point and like found some more eggs, but didn't go fully insanely hard. I know that I'm not going to, so I looked up some spoiler videos because I know I'm just like I'm not feeling it to go like super hardcore puzzle mode like we did in Tunic, Nolan. But the game's gonna get maybe we should touch on it, and like the game's gonna get even more spoiled at this point because basically like layer 1 of the game, I mean the way they describe it in the Animal Well Discord is like layer 1 is surface of the well. I'm a new player, I don't want to be spoiled. Layer 2 is deeper down the well. I've reached the credits. You're in the second layer of the game or beyond. Depths of the well. I'm interested in late game secrets. You've completed all the eggs. This is the place for you. And then I am willing to break the game. Do not leak anything from data mining. By selecting this, you're accepting the possibility of a ban. So like it goes really fucking deep, and the secrets are very secret after the credits.
Yeah, exactly. That whole first layer, right, that we were just talking about. Collect the 4 items, get the flames, unite the flames, and then, I guess there's that manticore, that sort of creepy, like black ghoul thing that's chasing you at the bottom. You run through that, launch the fireworks.
I thought that was supposed to be man at first. I was like, all right, we found the human. He's the worst of all. He's just some scraggly dude.
That's good. I like that lore.
Yeah.
The sewer guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
The freaky sewer guy. Yeah. That ending, you see credits, and I felt very satisfied at that point, having uncovered a lot of the map. I loved the fireworks at the end.
Loved it.
I was just like, this rocked. This was so good.
Yes.
And
completely agree.
And you're very quickly sort of dropped back in, and it's obvious that there is more for you to do, and you know that there are places on the map you haven't seen. There were chests that you saw that you didn't get to. And there's a screen that shows all of the eggs sort of on like these shelves, and you see that there's gaps in the shelves, and clearly you can get more. And I think you also know that you can probably find 64 of them total, and you only have found maybe 32 of them.
Exactly. Right. We all did.
Yeah. And then you get some of the best stuff and some of the worst stuff in the game. Interesting.
Go on. Go deeper.
No, I'm going to let you talk, because this is where I sort of picked the game back up because I knew we were going to do the pod.
Yes.
And I said to myself, well, I'm going to try to go into chapter 2 here. I'm going to try to find more eggs. I think I got to 44 eggs,
I'm around
something like that. And I put it down the other day, and then I picked it up yesterday, and I was running around, and I was like, I just don't care. I cannot give a shit about finding more of these eggs right now. And that's when I dropped out. So Nolan, you did not drop out. You kept going, right?
No. So I got all the eggs.
Wow.
I rolled second credits.
Yeah.
There's still more to do
There's
after that. I think I got all the bunnies, but it's not working right. So maybe I'm bugged. But I'm at the point now where I'm like, okay, these are like global collaboration puzzles where everyone, needs to be in the Discord talking about what we do about it. And that's, I think, where I'm going to take my exit.
Yeah, is that where you're going? Yeah.
But yeah, so I did everything, I guess, in the second layer.
Right. It was interesting. I want to keep going on that a little bit, Nolan, because Dan I forgot his last name already. Dan, the business partner. He mentioned.
Dan Edelman. Yes.
Edelman, yeah. He mentioned like a collaborative effort. He said the ideal way that people should play this game is kind of like a book club. 5 to 6 friends all start the game at the same time, compare notes, help each other out when we get stuck. And like, I don't know, maybe I'm just old and we didn't used to do that, but like, I never thought to look anything up in this game. I was like, this is my game, and these secrets I'm supposed to figure out all on my own. Not that I'm even trying to be like elitist or anything, like, oh, you're like, bullshit if you looked up how to find this egg or whatever. It's just that like that doesn't come to me naturally to be like, I can't figure this out, so I'm gonna look it up. Like for me, I would just give up probably. I don't know if that's good. It's probably not good, but I've never really heard someone describe like a puzzle game like that. Like it's supposed to be played collaboratively when it's such a one player like offline game. I found that really interesting.
I think that's, well, number one, that's like the playground effect, right? You talk about like, oh, what, did you do this? Did you
Right.
And also kids are liars, so you don't know if that's actually true or not. But I certainly have played games that way. I think, Tunic was kind of meant to be played that way. I think Fez was meant to be played that way. Even like Dark Souls games are meant to be played that way.
That's true.
And I certainly would have loved that. There's a couple of times when I was stuck and I like reached out to people that I knew were also playing the game. I was like, oh, like, do you know anything about this? And I was farther than all of them. So it's like,
Yeah, that's that's what the Discord's for.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the other thing that I noticed about the game was I went onto the Reddit, and there is an Animal Well Reddit, and there's a way that you can ask questions about where you're at that people aren't going to just say, oh yeah, go to this room and get that thing and jump on this. It's more like, I want to figure this out for myself. Can you lead me in the right direction?
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
And like the community around the game, I think, realize that the joy, like you said, Alon, is about figuring it out yourself. Yes. And if you just go and look up the answer, then what are we sitting here for, right? I mean, it's not like you're about to see some epic cutscene or something like that, right? But you want to figure it out.
Might as well just watch Video Game Donkey play it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, I could literally watch YouTube. I could watch someone else play it. I want to figure this out, but I am a little bit stuck. Can you just point me in the right direction so I can figure this out? I loved that this game encouraged that, and as a developer, I don't know. Maybe it was Dan Edelman that figured it out. But to help guide the community to sort of enforce and encourage that type of collaboration where people aren't just spoiling it for each other or people aren't looking for it to be spoiled for themselves, I think is a real tribute to how much people got into the rhythm of solving the puzzles in the first part and then wanting to keep that high going and wanting to keep those dopamine hits coming and wanting to have other people also enjoy those, So how can I keep you addicted to this game in the same way that I have been? The community did an amazing job. I think that's also why this game has been able to get as popular as it has. I think if it was just, hey, I can sit here and crush this solo and I figured it all out, I'm going to put it down and I might not talk to other people about it, right? But because there are these like puzzles that require me to talk to other people, it becomes a social effort in a really cool way. It requires community to beat the game.
Right. Beautiful. Well said.
Mm-hmm. And I think that not a lot of developers are thinking about that right now. Right. There is this extra meta layer, this social layer on top of your game. So when people are not playing your game, they are still engaging with it, right? They're still routing speedruns. They're still writing wikis. They're still, talking to their friends about it. And giving a little structure to those conversations, I think, goes a long way.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Like this is a designed game from, top to bottom.
Yeah. You can't just put a game out like a single player game. You know, it can't, like, that's just not enough these days. You have to make it somehow social, you know, and even a 2D, you're a blob running around a map game, it can be globally successful if you build that in to the design.
It's making me curious to, maybe I'll pick it up one more time and go to Discord and just be like, hey, this is how many eggs I'm at. Like, you know, but I think the answer is just going to be like, go to all the spots that aren't covered in your map. You know, go to all the black parts of your map. And I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, okay.
Well, yeah, I think it makes sense that you both ran out of steam, because in the second layer, it does something that I hate.
Okay.
Where
go on.
You get a couple different items where you just have to run around and try them in every room. Right?
As I like to call the Castlevania problem, like hitting my sword into every wall. Hate it.
Right.
Yeah, illusory wall ahead energy.
Yep, exactly.
You know? And then you just question every wall.
Yeah. I think the UV light is especially egregious. Well, so at least the top shows up in pictures if you use the UV light. So there is like
that. Okay.
There's
I never got
like
the UV light
in some of them.
Yeah, I never got it. Is UV light what you get for all the eggs? Is that the item you get for all the eggs?
No, that's an item you get from a second. That's like, because once you get your 4 main items, right, you get 4 more items.
Okay.
Right, so you get the UV light is one of them, which just like reveals secrets in the world, and so all of a sudden there's like writing on the walls and graffiti and all this stuff, and it's just like, now I have to run through the entire game again, right, with no sense of what is going to be what.
Right, you have to literally go to every room, or you're not like doing it properly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so then, right, the top is also kind of like that. The bouncy ball at least has a little subtle change in things that are breakable by the bouncy ball, but like, if you're not looking for it, then you wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah, that's crazy. I also agree. Anytime a designer or developer just has something hidden behind a wall that was just not obvious, like, oh yeah, you just had to bomb that. And it was kind of arbitrary. It just sucks. I don't want to do that. I don't want to run around without any sense of why. Like, why that wall, you know? It's just not satisfying. It's not interesting to me. And I don't want to have to dig around everywhere looking for that little needle in the haystack, you know?
Exactly. I was going to say, I think like as gamers, we're all always kind of like learning, and it's always changing, like what we actually like and don't like. Yeah. But like I don't know what I mean by that is I don't know what kind of secrets I like. But I know that like the top and the UV light and swinging my sword at every wall, I do not like. You know what I mean? But the chests, the eggs, like the first layer of the game, are secrets I like. Like it felt really fucking good whenever I found a chest. You know, until you eventually roll the credits. I was like, wow, crushed it. Great game. Loved the eggs. Loved everything. You know, it just felt complete and amazing. And then like you said, Nolan, like that next layer, just like really, I was just like, I'm not sure about this. You know, like this is just too much, you know?
I think anytime there was a dark area with vines in front of it, and then I somehow could navigate and swing past the vines and get to that dark area and it would light up and there was a chest there, it was just like the sweet nectar. I was just like, yes. So good. Like literally like the waterfall with the chest behind it in a little cave energy, you know? Yes. Which is, I think, in Tunic and so many, right? Like that's where I want a secret to be. It's just like, it's so sweet. It's drawing me into it. I was thinking back to the Arcane Kids, which is this collective of game designers from LA. They have a manifesto, which I don't know if you guys have read through that at all.
We have.
But yeah, it's you know, core tenets, and one of the core tenets that they have on their manifesto is the purpose of gameplay is to hide secrets, and I do think that that's true. They also say fuck puzzles and shut up about video games. So I don't know. A lot of those are a little conflicting, but I do think that hiding secrets in places that are satisfying, you get so much out of that. There's so much juice there.
What were you going to say, Nolan?
I guess I was just going to say that there is one exception to the items where you have to run around in every room. I kind of liked the remote.
I
in this game.
never got that.
Okay,
I did get the remote. Yeah.
So I liked it because it had multiple different uses, right? Unlike the UV light was just to reveal whatever. But the remote did a couple of fun things. So like the first order is, there's all these like switches everywhere where you're like turning on and off blocks.
Yeah.
But if you have the remote and there's these antenna in the background that have been there the entire time.
Wow, never noticed that.
And you can just flick those, and so you can flip the blocks anywhere.
Awesome.
And then also the second order is that it acts as a radar as well and will light up any treasure chests that are in the room.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Right. So it's like as you're using it to explore better, then you can start to track down. And there's a treasure that I have found that I have no idea how to get to.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Still?
Which is very interesting.
I can't believe you're that deep and still haven't found. That's really crazy.
Yeah, no idea how to get that. I've gotten all the eggs and everything, so it's like, what could be in it?
What's in it? Yeah.
I know. But yeah, so that one I do kind of like, even though it falls a little bit into but it's like something that you would notice through using it for other things.
Yeah,
so I think that's kind of okay.
Yeah, I mean, the depth of the puzzles, like late game, and I like I said, I watched a spoiler on it. I obviously didn't play it, and I'll link to the spoilers in the show notes. But like, it's the type of shit that I'm like, that is cool, and I'm happy that someone figured that out, and I'm getting very satisfied watching it because like I would never find that out. If I played this game for 50 straight years, I don't think I would figure this out. But like, I'm really happy that other people did, and it's really cool to watch, you know?
I saw one where there's a tile in one of the rooms, and your tile in your game is unique, and you need to somehow reference 49 other people's unique tiles. And by
have to collaborate.
You have if you were playing this on your own, you couldn't do it. I think Pokemon was the same way. You couldn't get all 150 Pokemon unless you were able to trade them with another friend, like that whole idea. That they built that into this game.
Yeah, Dan, obviously psycho Dan Edelman, who, on this game was playtesting, and he did it solo. He booted up the game. He then deleted his Steam file from his hard drive. Reinstall the game, did it. He said probably around 250 to 300 times because it's random. You might get repeat pieces. And then he put the puzzle together. It's just
that's a little sad.
Dude, you're fucking crazy. Yeah, I mean, Billy was laughing when he was telling that story. And Billy was like, yeah, we didn't need to play test that part. He's like, Dan just took care of it. He's like, Dan just did all of it. So,
That's amazing.
Yeah, really, really crazy.
So good.
All right. And then maybe should we get into my favorite part of
I would love to hear about
layer
that.
2?
Please.
So, yeah. So this is something that is, I guess, completely optional in layer 1, but you do get it and you can kind of poke around, but you get a flute.
Yes.
And there are songs in the world. The flute seems like it doesn't really do anything. There's maybe a couple animals that react to it, but you start to learn that there's ways you can play the flute. And this unlocks a whole other system in the game, right?
Love
where
it.
you learn teleportation song. Well, you learn how to teleport to a central hub that can then give you fast travel. And then from there you learn how to you get in there because there's these little flute icons, and if you play it near there, then these animal mouths open up and you can go to the hub.
Yes.
And then you learn how to teleport there from a fish that's in that area. Right. And then you start to see all these notes on different, areas. You have puzzles that you'll learn songs in one place that then will have effects in others, right? You are you're letting cats out of cages in one area by learning songs that they have to play.
Wow.
There's a bunch of also secret teleportation songs to get to bunnies that you have to learn through doing all sorts of nonsense.
Crazy shit.
Yeah, doing like
it's
all
in
of
the video.
this, like, this multi-level processing. And then the big puzzle of the game, which is not quite, but is a little analogous to me of the like golden path in
Golden Path
in Tunic.
Very
is
much so.
You are like collecting all these eggs, and if you use the UV light on the eggs, then they have symbols on them, and then you have to translate those symbols into notes,
Oh my
and then
God.
you have to play a whole big song in a certain place to unlock the second ending and all this stuff. It's like,
Holy shit.
yeah,
good.
it all
God.
comes together, right? There's all of these different mysteries throughout the game, right? With like, you know, you're finding flames, you're finding matches to light lanterns, you're finding these eggs, you're finding the flute and the songs, and like there's all these different branching paths, and then at the end they all come back together for this one puzzle, and it's incredibly satisfying to be like, oh, actually every single piece of this has been important.
Right. It's all part of the well. Yeah, I saw that in the
That's
video.
sick. That is sick,
and I was like, I love this, and I never would have figured this out. No shot.
I like have my
I am not that
this
guy
is
for
stuff
sure.
where it's like, okay, this I actually need my notebook for, because I'm like writing out. Let me see if sorry, there's a bunch of
Have you seen
there's a
any
bunch of
this stuff,
Lorelei
Gabe?
laser eyes stuff.
There you go.
No, I didn't watch.
Yeah,
I didn't watch this all
spoilers
come together.
here.
I didn't
There's
realize
like-
the UV and all that.
All of this
Yeah.
stuff I have.
Oh
like,
my God.
yeah,
That is,
like writing out,
that
like,
is
yeah.
my notebook in Tunic.
Yeah.
Like, that is me in Tunic.
Yeah.
Oh, that was
Like,
also me in Tunic.
Yeah, totally.
I have the notes in Tunic too. I think it's funny. I went through the Golden Path in Tunic.
It's
I
interesting
did
that
do
we
it.
all did. Well, Nolan does everything all the time, but it's
Not
interesting that
surprised Nolan did.
me and you, Gabe, did the Golden Path, but didn't continue in this game.
Yeah, I was thinking about what it was. Why did I feel like
why
I got
is that?
pulled into the meta puzzle of Tunic, whereas with this one, I felt like it just kind of, I lost momentum, I lost velocity. I think it might have just been the egg hunt for me. I think had the egg hunt had a little bit more direction, a little bit more pull, I would have probably wanted to see the bunny thing get figured out.
There's also just like a lot of like lore and narrative at that point in Tunic when you get the bad ending, and you're just like, oh wait, like this is terrible for the world, and like, you know, like 'cause I didn't actually solve the problem, and you start to figure it out with the book, or with the not the book, the game manual.
Yeah, the manual.
And you just like see like the wheels are just instantly turning. Like you have a guidebook to solve the Golden Path. You kind of have the guide for it there, and you just need to piece it together. Whereas I feel like, you know, like me and we're in a similar spot, Gabe. I think we're both like 20-ish eggs away, which is like a lot. Like we've uncovered most of the map, but that's still like a lot of work to do. Yeah. And then like the depth of the next layer of puzzles is really deep. Like it's not like, oh, you figure out the eggs and then like you're good to go. It's like you're not even close.
It is
You're
a chasm,
not even close. Yeah. So
I think I had the benefit with this game. I probably would have done it anyways, but I was on planes a lot playing this game, so it's just like a captive audience. Just like, all right, I'm just running around and finding eggs and whatever, making little progress here and there, killing some time. So,
do you think if there was more of a layer of lore happening in this game, it would have maybe pulled you in deeper? You know, I mean, I think that is one of the things about this. Was there dialogue in Tunic? I guess there is. There's stuff. There's all sorts of writing and
there's
things
a
like
whole
that. There's
language.
a language. Yeah, there's a whole language. Yes, of course. But like in this game, the only words are labeling items. You know, like items have names, but otherwise there's no
incomplete names.
B wand, like,
K shard.
K shard. Yeah. That's sort of like the thing that I felt like maybe he was missing for me a little bit. Like that Animal Well, the puzzle design was so thorough, and the aesthetic design was so thorough, and maybe the puzzles, as you solve them, you're learning more about the world, maybe. But I am still left wondering, what the hell are we doing in this sewer? And what are these animals dead? Are we in some sort of like animal purgatory?
Right.
You know, like, are we ever going to get out of the sewer?
Yeah.
You know, why are we here? You know, I think it just didn't
Got out
give
of the
me.
sewer.
Yeah.
You got out of the sewer. Wow, really?
You eventually get out. Yeah.
Okay.
I got to show you this vid, Gabe.
Dude, that's crazy. Yeah, I felt like I had no hope of ever. I will never get out of the sewer. I'm going to die.
I will also never get out. My blob lives in the sewer. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
My blob is turned into a statue. Then someone else will see my blob. Just, play a flute to it. Nothing will happen. But yeah, I do think that like sort of the bad ending in Tunic is more incentivizing to keep playing than the fantastically beautiful ending in Animal Well.
Yeah, a lot
I just
of people
felt amazing. I was like, that was my peak serotonin levels. I feel amazing. I am amazing. Fuck that little creepy fuck. Like, it's so good. Whereas in Tunic, I was just like, damn.
I gotta go in.
I gotta find the pages. I gotta like put this together. And there's that thing at the top of the mountain.
I know,
it's so obvious, right?
It's just not begging you to get through.
It's not 20 different doors, and eventually finding all the pages and opening it is a different problem. But it's just there, all the game. It's there, and you can't do anything. You've tried everything to open it, so you just know like that was the bad ending.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to open that door is probably the good ending. And I just need to, there's references to the golden path through the game.
Yes.
Where, in this game, it's just, you're sort of just on your own.
And so a couple of people I've talked to have said that, I'm stopping after the credits because I think it does wrap up so well.
Yeah.
And also because they didn't like the final section where you have to like run from the manticore, and like didn't like the like scary vibe shift.
Oh, I loved it.
But it is a game that it feels complete when you beat it.
It does.
And then
it does.
And then when you get your first second order item, it opens up another row in your inventory.
Yeah. Yes.
It's true. Like, and then it's like, okay, now I'm on a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But like your menu screen is filled when you get the first credits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, that was it. And there's other secrets, but they seem like they're not this whole intricate system and a bunch more items and a bunch more, 4 more areas with bosses for you to go explore. And
I mean, maybe it is also just, you have to do the same thing in Tunic, but we're just spitballing here. But maybe it is just also like, really have to like traverse the whole map again feeling. Whereas like let's just say like you get the house key when you roll the credits, you go into the house, it opens a new area completely. I'd probably keep playing.
Right.
I'm probably like, whoa, what the hell is in here? Instead, it's just sort of like, there's a clock. I have a stopwatch I can't use. There's like a clock tower. There's like a 3D donut thing. and then you just go back to the map, like you just like go back to right where you just were. And you
find out it wraps.
Yeah, you find out it wraps
here. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just like, what's up?
Yeah, I was hearing someone's theory that the donut there is a representation of the topology of the world, because the map wraps on itself top and bottom and left and right. It's like the map is a torus, basically.
Love that.
It is.
So sick. So good.
That's not what it is, though. It is cool, but I think that, imagine going, like, beating Symphony of the Night in the same way, right? It feels complete.
Yeah.
And then there's like, you find out, okay, well, actually, if I got these like 3 random items and did this little thing, then there's a whole other game, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it's you don't expect there to be that much more
Right.
content,
Right.
and there is in this game.
Right. Yeah.
Does this game feel like Game of the Year material? Are we looking at Game of the Year right now?
I mean, I loved it. I've recommended it up, down, left, right. Like everyone I talked to, like, have you tried this, by the way? Like, think you're going to love it. Really bite size, fun, quick. And if you are, into that, you can dive way, way deeper and go really ham on this game.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Certainly in the conversation. I think it'll be in my top 9 at least.
Top
Okay.
9, not top 10.
Yeah.
I do a top 27, top 9, top 3, and top 1 that are unordered. But
You're a maniac.
Insane, dude. Love it.
but yes.
Yeah, I was when I finished the game, I said to myself, that rocked. This game is sick. And then a week later, I don't even think we had said that we were going to do the pod. I was walking around and I was like, I don't think about that game at all.
I still have.
I don't know. It just, I wasn't necessarily thinking to myself like, God, like that moved me. It was sort of like,
that's fair. Yeah.
It was sort of like I solved the Rubik's Cube or something, and like I got all the colors to align and like the puzzle was solved and I was very satisfied to have done it, but I don't reflect back on solving it and be like, man, I'm a different person now. It was a delicious, absolutely fantastic meal that I had, but it didn't change the way I think about food, So I don't know, maybe because I didn't go all the way to the depths and I didn't join the community effort. I didn't make new friends, it wasn't this whole thing for me. That said, yeah, it was a rocking 8 to 10 hours that I had. And anyone that wants to just have a really good time, especially on a handheld device, if you've got a Steam Deck or a Switch and you're on a bus or you're on a plane, this is the game for you. No question. No question. It's so good.
Yeah. For me, I really enjoyed a lot of the mysteries. Right. So it's like, it wasn't just secrets that you found. There was plenty of those too, but it was like, you find something and you're like, what does this mean? And you're like, I've seen a couple of these. Do they tie together somehow? I got a new item. Does that work with it? And so like the way that they all kept branching out, and there's a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
There's like, every time I solved a mystery, like 2 more would pop up. And so I certainly had a great time just like following all these trails, trying to figure out how it all wrapped together. And again, I haven't solved all of them.
I know. It's a great game for conspiracy theorists.
It is. I had my conspiracy board up being like, this ties to this, and it, so I think for me, definitely the like playing of it was special. And I think that's going to be something that I think about for a while.
That's awesome.
And I mean, but
I think I had a special time in there as well. It was a really terrific 10, 11 hours, whatever I logged. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's not a perfect game by any means. And I think that I wouldn't recommend it to everyone to play, but certainly if you're into, whatever Iceberg games, if we want to use that term, right? If your Fezzes, your Tunics, then it's a good one of those.
Like for me, the first ending, like if we're just pretending the next layer doesn't exist in the secrets, like to me, it's like pretty perfect. Like, I don't know. I just thought I had basically I got stuck a couple times and then I just went to another area and figured it out later. Like, I had no issues with anything to do with the game. The only part that like kind of bummed me out a little bit was I already rolled credits. I'm forcing myself to get back in there because we're recording a podcast. I'm going to put in a couple hours, see where I get. And I was just like, it's just not for me. But like, if I didn't do that, I think my personal opinion of the game would just be like, that was pretty perfect. And like, I would recommend that to everyone who plays games.
The flow of the first whole up to the first credits was amazing.
Unbelievable.
Amazing flow. And to do that with so many ideas, such a diversity of puzzle design, that's remarkable. I like props to Basso, like Billy smashed it, you know. Yeah, like that's sick. Totally sick and truly remarkable. And it's insane that it kind of required a YouTuber with 7.5 million subscribers for us to hear about this.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of doubt that we'd be talking about this had Donkey not published it.
Came out.
I think it would have come out. I think some people might have like gotten into it and maybe shared it around, but I think this one easily could have gone under the radar
100%
for the heads, you know? And then like that whole first chapter, which I think is not just for the heads, that first up to the first credits, that first 8 to 10 hours, I think is kind of for any gamer that likes playing puzzle games. Anybody can play that first 10 hours and have a smash, you know, a smash time. And it's the rest of it that is for the heads who are really, really invested. I don't know if we ever would have heard about this game had it not been for the voice of that of YouTube, you know.
Which means we should all play more indie games, probably, because there's a lot of good shit out there, right?
Yeah, there is. And like we're probably missing gems all the time.
All day, every day.
Yeah, it's a tragedy. The tragedy.
Yeah, it is a tragedy. But I think that's probably a good place to wrap it all up. Gabe, if you have anything to promote or anywhere you want to people can follow you or anything like that, and Nolan the same, you know, take it away.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I'm again Gabe Liberti. I'm one of the co-creators of a game called Game of 1000 Boxes. It's an in-person immersive game show experience that you can play in New York City for up to 32 people. We also just opened a location in Dallas, Texas that you can go check out. It's sort of a lot of little mini games that you play with a bunch of friends and strangers, and the team with the most points at the end wins a prize. It's super fun.
Nolan?
Nice. I am Nolan. I am CalamityNolan on Twitch if you want to hear more of me. I stream all sorts of fun things, lots of indies, Nintendo games. I'm always fundraising. This month I'm helping promote the Queer Games Bundle, so I'm playing all indie queer games all month. It's super fun. And then I also have my own game studio. It's called Up at Night. You can check out my games at upatnight.games.
Fuck yeah. Thanks so much, guys. It was a great time. And next episode will be Majora's Mask, episode 3, followed by Majora's Mask, episode 4, and then I don't really know what's next, so we'll take it from there. But bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Peace.
Thanks.
Cheers.